What's up, y'all? My name is Monster, and today we're talking about the top 5 weapons for our boyo Zane. Now, there is one caveat that we need to talk about before we get into this weapons list, and it is anointments on weapons. If you want to be playing on Mayhem 4, you have to have the right anointments. And the anointment that you want on every single one of these weapons is while Sentinel is active, gain 100% of damage as bonus cryo damage. To make a long story short, what this does is basically double your damage. Now, does this mean that these guns aren't good without this anointment? Not at all. These weapons will shred on any Mayhem. But if you want to be as efficient as possible on Mayhem 4, you need to have that anointment. Now, let's get into the list. Before we get into the actual top 5, I want to get an honorable mention shout out to the Nighthawken. You can find the Nighthawken by killing the Demoskagan located in the Droughts. Now, what this weapon does is it switches between cryo and incendiary damage depending on the time of day. Daytime is for cryo and nighttime is incendiary. What it also does is with each hit increasing an elemental effect chance. Basically, this means that the more you hit your target, the higher chance that there will be that you get the elemental effect on them. But the major thing, in my opinion, that comes to this gun is there's no delay between bursts. So normally when you shoot a burst weapon, you press it, fire 4, wait like half a second, and then fire another 4. There isn't any of that with this gun. You can chain the burst, and the burst mode on the Nighthawken much faster than the normal full auto. So if you can find a burst Nighthawken, you will be putting out so much damage, it's ridiculous. Now, can you use the Nighthawken for every different type of scenario? Yes, but what I find the Nighthawken is best for is general ad clear, and what I mean by that is killing your normal psychos, your normal enemies, not the super heavy guys or the bosses of the game. Now, another cool thing about the Nighthawken is that you can get it very early in game, so be sure to keep that in mind when you're doing your next playthrough. Next up is the Brainstormer. Now, the Brainstormer is a legendary Hyperion shotgun that you can find by killing Katagawa Ball in Skywheel 27. The Brainstormer's special weapon effect is it fires 7 projectiles in a lightning bolt pattern. Hitting an enemy has a chance to change shock damage to nearby enemies. What does this mean? It means you shoot one guy and all the guys around him are getting electrocuted. It's absolutely amazing. Now, the main uses for the Brainstormer are obviously ad clear, but one of the reasons why I love the Brainstormer so much is it is one of the best weapons in the game to keep your action skills up. Now, you may be asking, Monster, what do you mean by keep action skills up? Well, I'll tell you. Thanks to the Good Misfortune perk in Zane's blue skill tree, every single time you kill an enemy, it increases the action skill duration. Now, what the Brainstormer is great at is shooting one enemy, chaining to multiple enemies, and immediately recharging your action skills. So my best recommendation with Zane is if you ever feel like your action skills are about to run out, switch over to the Brainstormer, shoot a couple enemies, let your action skills recharge, and then keep on going. Next up, we have the Dictator. Now, the Dictator is a Vladoff assault rifle that can be found by killing the Agonizer 9000 in the Guts of Carnivera. Now, what does this weapon do? This weapon fires 3 bullets in a horizontal line in rifle mode and 7 in bipod mode. Now, what I mean by this is the Dictator comes with a permanent bipod attachment, and when you're not using the bipod, it only shoots 3 bullets at enemies. When you use the bipod, it more than doubles the amount of bullets that you're putting out. Now, the caveat with this is when using the bipod, your movement is severely limited. You're not able to jump, and it's almost like a slow walk everywhere you go. But the damage makes up for the lack of movement. Now, another thing that you can look for with the Dictator is a ×6 multiplier when farming for it. Normally, the Dictator comes with a ×3, but if you get the ×6 multiplier, when you swap over to the bipod mode, you're shooting 14 bullets instead of 7. Now, one of my favorite uses for the Dictator is boss damage against slow-moving big bosses. For example, when Wotan splits in half and the second half is flying in the air, my favorite thing to do is swap over to the Dictator, go into bipod mode, and just lay damage into him. It takes no time to take him out. Now, another really good way to use the Dictator is for action skill keep up, very similar to the Brainstormer. If you feel like you're getting low in your action skills, swap over to the Dictator super quick, knock out a couple enemies super fast, and then you're back into the action. Next up, we have the Maggie. Now, the Maggie is a legendary Jacob's pistol, which can be found by killing the Tremendous Rex in the final round of the Cistern of Slaughter. Now, in my opinion, killing Tremendous Rex in the final round of the Cistern of Slaughter is a very long farm to get the Maggie. Now, it is a dedicated drop, so if you keep killing him over and over, you will eventually get the Maggie. But in my personal experience, I've had much better luck finding the Maggie as world drops. But if you want to make sure that you're going to get the Maggie, then of course, kill Tremendous Rex. Now, what does the Maggie do? The Maggie fires 6 projectiles per shot, has increased magazine size, and critical hit damage. Essentially, the Maggie is the best Master Style pistol. Now, in my experience, the best way to use the Maggie is for high health adds, such as badasses and heavies. What I like to do to them is run up with the Maggie and stuff the barrel into their crit and just spam the trigger. Think of it almost as a burst damage pistol. Of course, it obliterates regular health mobs like normal psychos and the sorts, but I would kind of recommend not using it on bosses, as it has a magazine size of 9, and reloading that quickly over and over and over really kind of takes a toll on your DPS. Not saying it can't do it, it's just not my preferred weapon for that scenario. Now, the next 2 weapons that we're going to talk about are the creme de la creme of weapons for Zane. Not that any of the other weapons that we've talked about aren't amazing for Zane, because they really are. But if I were to only be able to take 2 weapons into fights with Zane, these next 2 would be the 2 that I would take. First up is the Redistributor. Now, the Redistributor is a Hyperion SMG that drops from Valkyrie Squad and Wotan in the Mayhem Takedown. Now, there is a blue level Redistributor that you get earlier in the game, and while that weapon is good, the legendary version of it is exponentially better. So what does the Redistributor do? Well, amped shots chain to nearby enemies, and every 7th shot from the weapon is amped. Now, while that's good in its own right, where the Redistributor really shines is with Zane. Every bullet that you shoot through his shield is amped, which, connecting the dots here, means that every single shot is going to chain to nearby enemies. This makes the Redistributor, in my opinion, the best ad clear weapon for Zane. Now, against bosses, just to put it bluntly, there's better options, and we're going to get into that. But when it comes to just general ad clear, general getting to the boss, the Redistributor is the best gun for Zane. Now, last but not least is the Ceman SMG. The Ceman SMG is a legendary Maliwan weapon, which can be found by killing Borman Nates just left of the Meridian Outskirts fast travel station in the COV camp. So what is the special weapon effect for the Ceman? Well, the Ceman shoots out 2 projectiles that span over a distance and hit everything in between. Think of it as an expanding horizontal line that slices through your enemies. Now, there's 2 caveats to the Ceman. First is that the bullets eventually just die off, like they disappear. It's not anything ridiculous short, but it is shorter than you probably think it is. Second, due to it being a Maliwan manufactured weapon, there is a charge up time every time you want to shoot the gun. In my opinion, because of the charge up time, this doesn't make it the best ad clearing gun. Not that it can't do it, because it absolutely destroys. I just find that whenever I'm trying to kill enemies, I want to immediately shoot them, and the charge up time really leaves something to be desired in terms of ad clearing. But where this gun does shine is boss damage. Now, this is primarily because of 2 reasons. First, when facing a large boss, the charge up time doesn't matter as much as when there's ads right in your face. And second, the further out that the Ceman's projectiles expand, the more damage it does to bosses due to the mechanics of the game. In fact, except for certain situations such as the top half of Wotan, I primarily only use the Ceman against bosses with Zane. I just believe it's that good, and I genuinely believe it's the best boss damage gun for Zane. So, there you guys have it. Those are my top 5 best weapons for Zane. Now, if I missed your weapon or you feel that a weapon has been left out off of this list, be sure to let me know in the comments below. I will be reading every single comment that you guys post. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit like, and if you want to never miss one of my videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now, if you ever want to hang out with me live, be sure to follow me on Twitch. The link is in the description below. Easy. That's going to be it for me, guys. I hope you guys take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.